If you have histamine intolerance or mast cell activation syndrome, including probiotics might not be the first step in your healing journey, but it's a really important one. And I started this video looking to find the best low histamine coconut yogurts all over the world. I spent tons of hours emailing back and forth between companies, asking about the colony forming units and the strains, trying to put together a really good list. And I've acquired a few. They won't be applicable to everyone because they are in different parts of the world. But if you can't find them, what you can do is look at the strains that are listed in the ones I recommend and see if you can find a local one near you that's very similar. And this whole thing is kind of turning into a series because now I've made a video on how to make your own low histamine coconut yogurt. You should check that out. And even how to make your own low histamine starter culture so that you can make your own low histamine coconut yogurt. And I asked on Instagram, and a ton of you reached out with brands you wanted me to research. So I looked into all of them. So if this is helpful, I would love a comment, a like. Let me know that I didn't waste 2 weeks of my time emailing brands. So before I get into the actual brands, there's a few things I want you to know. First, I want to say that even though these coconut yogurts are low histamine, meaning the strains in them are low histamine, that doesn't mean it's a free-for-all and you can just go in and have a quarter cup. Because even though these are low histamine strains, when you introduce them, they are powerful microorganisms and they go in and they fight the histamine producing strains in your body. So as that happens, those are going to die off, those are going to release histamine, and they're going to release other toxins. And so as that's happening and your whole microbiome is shifting in there, you might have a histamine dump because your mast cells will recognize those toxins and your body will recognize that histamine. So we go super slow. Even though these are low histamine, we still want to start with like a drop, an eighth of a teaspoon, a quarter of a teaspoon. So like I said, I reviewed all these products, emailed back and forth, and I have a little bit of a criteria that I went through to see what is a good product. So the first one is obviously low histamine strains of probiotics. We don't want any strains of probiotics that are producing histamine. We want them to be strains that break down histamine. The second one is no weird additives. A lot of these yogurt brands looked awesome, but they had really weird synthetic things in them to try to like coagulate, is that the right word? The yogurt and make it not separate. Some of them are okay, but a lot of them had that and like just really weird synthetic things that I would never recommend. So the third is a wide variety of probiotics. Some of these brands looked good, they were low histamine, but when you actually looked at it, it was only like one strain of probiotic, which isn't good. Our microbiome should be like a rainforest or an ocean. It shouldn't just have a bunch of whales. It needs to have the phytoplankton, the algae, the crustaceans, all of that. And every study I've ever read on the gut, which is a lot, will show the benefits of a certain strain, and then they'll do a study and it'll show, what about when this strain, we add Saccharomyces boulardii or something else, and the benefits exponentially increase, okay? So that is just showing that all these probiotics signal and communicate with each other for better results. Okay, so without further ado, the first one, my favorite, is Nox and Aya. This is an Australian brand, and they're awesome because it's all low histamine strains and only one other thing. It's coconut cream, low histamine strains, and then agar-agar, which helps it to not separate. It's kind of like the emulsifier, I think is the thing, but it's coming from algae. So while it's not a GAPS legal additive, it's from algae, it's a whole food, I feel good about it. So if you're on the GAPS diet, you might want to think about that if that's something right for you, but it's very clean. And the cool thing about it too is not only does it have a bunch of strains, it has the Saccharomyces boulardii, which is a beneficial yeast. It crowds out candida, so it helps remove candida from the body, binds to mold efficiently, very cool. And then also, every batch is going to be different, but when they tested it, it was about 1 teaspoon of this contained 2.5 billion CFU. That's a colony forming unit. So that's just like the number of probiotics. That's really good for a teaspoon, 2.5 billion. So this is my number one. You can get it in a lot of Australia on the East Coast. The second brand that looks really good that I wasn't able to try is Coco June. It's American. A lot of people reached out wanting me to look into that one, and it looks great. And I emailed them because I was a little sus on 2 of the strains, just wondering what genetic variation, if it produced histamine, and they assured me that their product is good for people who are sensitive to histamine. Now, it says on their website that they have 4 billion CFUs, the colony forming units, per serving, and a serving seems to be 4 ounces. So that's going to be a little bit weaker than the Nox and Aya, but still seems like a really good option. The third best option is an Australian brand called Koyo. It is low histamine, but there's only 2 strains, which I'm not fond of because I like that variety. That's what really helps us get better, is having that variety in our gut, but still a good option. It's about 2 to 4 billion per serving, which is 100 grams. So definitely a lot weaker, but I think it's also a good option. And if you're doing some gut healing stuff, sometimes we want a weaker probiotic just because you'll tolerate it a bit better than the really strong stuff. And something else I want to mention is you can kind of tell, like with all these things, they will vary from batch to batch in the amount of coliform units because it's in the millions and billions. There's going to be a bit of variation, even if they keep like the temperature and the recipe the exact same, it will vary. But you can really test for yourself if it's high in probiotics. So we've used Koyo quite a bit. They have delicious ice cream. But if I taste it, it's not very tart. Compared to the Noxinaya, this one's a lot more tart, yogurt tasting. It includes the Saccharomyces boulardii, which is that beneficial yeast that helps get rid of candida. I always look for this because we're getting antibiotics in our world bombarded with us. The other ones I mentioned, like the Noxinaya, also contains this. But that Saccharomyces boulardii is very protective, especially if you've had antibiotics. So even if you haven't had antibiotics, there is chlorine in our water, and we're kind of getting a lot of probiotics. Okay, let's get into the honorable mention. This one isn't low histamine, but it looks like a really good product to add in when your histamine symptoms have calmed down. Coconut Cult. You guys asked me about this, and I've actually looked into this before. It looks awesome. It has 16 strains, which is a huge variety. It also contains L-Reuteri, which a lot of people are interested in right now. So if you kind of want to try that, but you don't want to go out and buy it yourself or make your own L-Reuteri yogurt, that's something. It is a histamine producing strain. This is why I'm adding it to the honorable mentions and not one of the best initial products. But once your histamine symptoms have calmed down, this one looks like an awesome one to try. It also has 100 billion CFUs per 2-ounce serving, which is crazy. That is a lot. And if you're wondering why that one is so high compared to some of the others, it is because probiotics generally feed off fiber, starch, and sugar. So what Coconut Cult seems to do really well is they have the coconut cream, but they also have the coconut meat blended in there and the coconut water, which is giving it that sugar. So it's giving it basically a ton of prebiotic things for those microbes to digest on because they don't really just feed off of cream. You know, a lot of these are just like coconut cream and starter cultures. You're not going to get a ton of probiotics multiplying that way because there's not that much for them to feed off of. Where this one, they're having the fiber, the sugars, the starch, everything. So that's why it's going crazy, fizzing, and becoming a seriously densely populated microbial product. Now, keep in mind, if you've tolerated the other products or been making your own low histamine coconut yogurt and you're tolerating that, I would be really careful when switching to Coconut Cult because it's so much stronger. So I would start with like a tiny, tiny fraction of what you were having previously. Unfortunately, I know all of these products don't apply to everyone. You might not be able to get them in Europe. But if that is you, and you want to make your own or you're open to making your own, I'm going to give you 2 great starter cultures that you can get in most of the world. They're a little bit more expensive, but you can use it over and over and over again. So the first one is Cultured Wellness. This is a coconut yogurt starter. All of the strains included are low histamine. It gives you a wide variety. It includes the Saccharomyces boulardii that I really like that helps get rid of the candida. This can make multiple batches of coconut yogurt, and I have a discount code that I'll put below. It's Grounded Approach 10 in case you want to use it. They do ship. I ordered mine and it got to me in like 2 days, which was awesome. And I've already been making coconut yogurt with this and it turned out beautifully. So highly recommend that if you can get onto this. Super easy to make. I have a video coming on exactly how to do that. And the other starter culture is by Custom Probiotics. The blend is D-lactate free. Now this is a probiotic supplement that I use with my clients all the time. People that are specifically sensitive to dairy. If you have any anaphylactic allergies to dairy or you just don't do well with dairy, that is pretty much the only probiotic supplement I recommend. It is GAPS approved, low histamine, multi-strain, no gluten, no dairy, no sugar, no fillers. It's really, really incredible. And you only need a smidge. So if that is something you want to do, stay tuned for my next video where I show you how.